Hi, everyone. This is Florida House Democratic Leader Fentrice Driskell coming to you live with an update. I know typically we have our time together on Tuesday nights, but there were a couple of, well, really a few very important Supreme Court rulings that came out today from the Florida Supreme Court, and I needed to bring you this update as quickly as possible. So the first is that there is a ballot initiative to put adult use for marijuana on the ballot. The Florida Supreme Court reviewed that language, determined that everything was okay. And so adult use of marijuana will be on the ballot this November, and people can vote on that. And it's very important. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, I want to spend the balance of my time talking about a mixed bag, a very mixed set of results that happen with respect to abortion access. So many of you know that in 2021, I guess it was, the Florida legislature, might have been 2022, but the Florida legislature recently passed a 15-week abortion ban that included no exceptions for rape or incest, which are two of the most awful, evil circumstances that a woman can go through on her way to pregnancy, right? So this already is an extreme ban that they put in place. They followed that up the next year in 2023 and passed a 6-week ban, right? The 15-week ban has been in litigation. It's been before the Supreme Court. We were waiting for a ruling on that to find out whether or not the Supreme Court would uphold it as valid or not. And the whole gamble that the Florida legislature took was that the Supreme Court would in fact say that it is okay for a state government to regulate access to abortion in a post Roe versus Wade world. We know that Roe versus Wade was the longstanding U.S. Supreme Court decision that protected a woman's right to abortion access as healthcare. Once that was overturned, then it was up to the states to regulate abortion. So what the Florida legislature did was pass a 6-week ban, which is before most women even know they are pregnant. And they said, depending on how the Florida Supreme Court rules on the 15-week ban, this 6-week ban can go into effect just 30 days after the Supreme Court's ruling. So we have been waiting for months to see how all of this would shake out. We were already very concerned about the 15-week ban for reasons that I mentioned, including that it has no exception for rape or incest. So what happened is that, not to get you too mired down in the procedure, what I need you to know is that today the Florida Supreme Court issued a ruling that clears a pathway for that 6-week ban. And in 30 days, there will be a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. This is very troubling. This is very troubling because Florida has been one of the few places, and actually the only place in the Southeast, where folks could come and get abortion care up to 15 weeks. So there are a lot of folks who would travel here from out of state to get that care. Once that 6-week ban goes into effect, it's basically like an outright ban. And there are so many women who are going to be without the access to healthcare that they need. I think what's remarkable for me, if I can just kind of really share how I'm feeling, it's like this actually is not going to stop women from going to get abortions. What it is going to do is for women who can't afford to travel out of state and go up north, to a state like New York or go somewhere else where they could seek abortion care. For the women who can't afford it, they're just going to be stuck here in Florida. It is astonishing to me that as I sit here, I have, fewer rights than my mom did when she was of childbearing age. It's just remarkable to me that there are young women who have fewer rights than their grandmothers had. And I never thought I would see the day that we're living in a time where we have the courts who are supposed to protect our freedoms and enforce the Constitution. I never thought I'd live in a time where I'd see the courts take rights away. And that is troubling to me. And that should be troubling to us all. We're all Americans. We all appreciate and relish the value of freedom. Like it's just like such a core American value. And so to have a court lean on their own ideologies, because that's what I think happened with this 6-week ban, for them to lean on their own ideologies rather than just follow the law and follow the Constitution. That's deeply troubling to me. That should be deeply troubling to all of us. And that's regardless of party, because I'm talking about a central and core American value. So we now live in a time where women are treated very differently depending on what state they're in. To me, this also seems like an equal protection violation of the United States Constitution. We're entitled to equal protection under the law. So how can it be that I have fewer rights as a woman if I travel from Florida to New York, or from New York to Alabama, or wherever? It's awful to me. Um, I did tell you that today was a mixed bag. And so the one piece of good news with respect to abortion is that the wonderful folks at Floridians Protecting Freedom and their coalition partners were successful in getting abortion on the ballot this November. That is Amendment 4. So when you hear us talk about yes on 4, we're saying that you should vote yes, to really have that power back in your own hands and determine whether or not abortion should be legal in the state of Florida. And a vote yes on 4 is a vote for that. Over 1 million Floridians signed that petition. I know that I did. And it wasn't just Democrats, it was Republicans and NPAs too. And that's exactly what I think it will take, is a diverse coalition, a coalition, frankly, that is as diverse as Florida itself, in order to get that passed on the ballot. Now that the Supreme Court has approved the language, it will be on the ballot when we vote this November. And we have to have at least 60% of Floridians who vote in favor of it in order for it to become a part of Florida's Constitution and afford and restore the protections that we enjoyed in this state before Roe versus Wade was overturned. So that is actually really good news. It's just such a mixed bag because, again, like I mentioned, we've got a Florida Supreme Court that is taking our rights away. And that is not okay. Like, we should all be upset about that. And this is something, like I said, it doesn't depend on your party, but I'm also going to argue that it doesn't depend on your gender or your gender identity. Everybody should be mad about this. Everybody should be mad about this. Even if you are not a woman or you don't identify as female, surely you know somebody in your life who does. And we should all really make sure that our friends and family are educated about these issues and that people are motivated to go out and vote this November. Nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And the way that we do that is by exercising our rights at the ballot box. If you want to know more information, I mean, I've got a few things that you can do. I know that I get emails and things and messages on social media asking, how can I be more active? How can I be involved with what's going on? So know that you can go to floridiansprotectingfreedom.com. That is the Floridians Protecting Freedom website. You can go there for more information and for resources. When you get to their webpage, you can pledge to vote this November. That seems like such a small step, but I promise you it is huge, because people who make a plan to vote are far more likely to actually follow through on that commitment and go and vote. And we need everybody to show up at the ballot box this November. On their website, you can also give a donation to the cause, whether it's $5, $10, however much you can afford to give. I promise you that nothing's too small. Please know that nothing's too large either, because it definitely takes resources to make sure that the public is educated about their rights and the potential to restore those rights now that Roe versus Wade has been overturned. So there's a couple things you can do. I will also post on my social media pretty soon. I believe that there is an update call that Floridians Protecting Freedom are going to do tonight, so that people can tune in and try to understand, okay, what happens now that the Florida Supreme Court has approved this and has said that this language can be on the ballot. So I'll definitely share that on my social media. Make sure that you are following me on social media so you get the updates when I go live, because sometimes there is breaking information just like this. And I want to stay in touch with all of you around these initiatives so that you know what you can do as we turn towards November and get prepared. But yeah, I gotta say it, like, guys, I'm so frustrated and maybe not totally surprised, because I understand that this is the Florida Supreme Court that we're dealing with, and that most of them at this point are appointees of Governor Ron DeSantis. So how could or should we expect anything different than them to try to roll back protections and roll back our freedoms? But it's just not okay. It's just absolutely not okay. Constitutions are there to protect us all, and laws should be there to protect us all. But the Constitution really are the guardrails. And if you didn't know this, Florida's Constitution has a right to privacy that is in the language of the Constitution. That's a big deal, because when it comes to federal law, our right to privacy is inferred. It is not explicitly anywhere in the US Constitution. You can't find it, but the courts have interpreted that we are entitled to a right to privacy. And that's how we had the protection for abortion access. Now that Roe versus Wade is gone, the only protections we really have are with state laws. It's with the states. And so in a state like Florida, where the people of Florida, in their wisdom, put a right to privacy in the Constitution and said that in Florida, we should have limited government interference, it is just abhorrent to me that the Florida Supreme Court would think that they know better. And so all I have to say is, like, if you're not with me in my next OB appointment, like if you're not in that exam room with me, in that medical doctor visit for my deeply personal healthcare decisions, then you shouldn't have anything to say about it. I don't need a politician looking over my shoulder making healthcare decisions for me. And make no mistake, that is exactly what happened today, is that the Florida Supreme Court inserted themselves to make this decision for us. And if you're wondering, how is it that the Florida Supreme Court should even have anything to say about that? Again, it's because it was interpreting that constitutional right, and so that gave them the pathway and the lane to rule on this. But man, did they get it wrong! Man, did they get it wrong! So, please share your stories with us. If there's anything that you want to share with us, you can do that at our website, fentriceforflorida.com. We always love to hear from you. You can also email us at yourvoice@fentriceforflorida.com if that is your preferred method of staying in touch. I didn't want to stay on too long, but I had to bring you that update so that you know what's happening. I know folks are busy going about their daily lives, not necessarily paying attention to what the Florida Supreme Court is doing every day. But you should know that this is a day where they got it wrong. Yes, we're very glad that Amendment 4 is on the ballot. Vote yes on 4. But please understand that this case that is going to put this 6-week ban into effect is effectively like the Supreme Court drawing a line in the sand. The Florida Supreme Court has drawn a line in the sand, and they are basically putting it to the people. And they're saying, people of Florida, Floridians, pay attention. If you want access to abortion as healthcare, you yourselves are going to have to do it. You yourselves are going to have to vote this November to put this in the Florida Constitution to protect rights for everybody. And should we succeed in that, that language in the Florida Constitution should override the 6-week abortion ban and get rid of that horrible law that puts an abortion ban before many women even know that they're pregnant, before there are important tests that can be run on the health and the safety of the fetus. It's absolutely wrong. So it is a mixed day in Florida for sure. So please make sure that you tune into our next live stream, which will be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. I'll be bringing you the latest in Florida politics. I'm also happy to get into these issues more if you all want it. You can always let me know, send us a message, and we'd love to hear from you. So thanks, everybody, and take care of yourselves out there.